ووصلت إلى خواتيمها الجيدة، لا بل الجيدة جدا. من ناحية أخرى، لبنان على موعد مع الذكرى الثانية لكارثة انفجار مرفأ بيروت ب4 آب دون إحراز أي تقدم في التحقيق وغياب واضح للمساعدة الامريكية في التحقيق أيضا. والغريب أنه هذه الجريمة لو كانت حدثت في بلد آخر غير لبنان لكانت قامت الدنيا وما قعدت تم. لكن الإدارة الأمريكية أكدت عبر رئيسها بايدن في قمة جدة للأمن والتنمية على دعم سيادة لبنان وأمنه واستقراره والإصلاحات اللازمة لتحقيق تعافيه الاقتصادي وخروجه من أزمته المالية، والأهم دعم دور الجيش اللبناني وقوى الأمن الداخلي في حفظ أمن لبنان، والتأكيد على أهمية بسط سيطرة الحكومة اللبنانية على جميع أراضيها. للحديث عن الدور الأمريكي في المنطقة في عهد الرئيس جو بايدن بعد زيارته الأخيرة إلى الشرق الأوسط ورؤية الإدارة الأمريكية للملف اللبناني، نفصلها مع ضيفي الليلة بتوقيت بيروت مساعد وزير الخارجية الامريكي الأسبق لشؤون الشرق الأدنى أستاذ ديفيد شنكر. أهلا وسهلا بك بتوقيت بيروت، وطل علينا عبر سكايب من واشنطن. بداية، أنهى الرئيس الأمريكي جو بايدن زيارته إلى إسرائيل والضفة الغربية وجدة، والتقى خلال هذه الزيارة قادة مجلس التعاون الخليجي ورؤساء مصر والعراق وطبعا ملك الأردن الملك عبد الله. كيف تقيم هذه الزيارة التي تأتي في سياق أجواء مشحونة جراء ارتفاع كبير في أسعار الطاقة العالمية والتخوف من أزمة غذاء غير مسبوقة؟
Well, Asma, good to be with you. So I think that the president had to go. Oftentimes when things are bad at home, presidents, world leaders go abroad. Something like 30% here in the United States. That's several points worse than President Trump. The gas prices are nearing $5 a gallon. When he came to office, President Biden, it was about $2 a gallon. And so I think there was an imperative out there to do something, or try and be seen as doing something about energy prices. And that's going to Saudi Arabia and trying to encourage the Saudis to increase oil production. That was an important part of the visit. The other part of the visit was to show that the United States is still involved in the Middle East. There is a rumor in the region that we are leaving the region because we are doing the pivot to Asia while we have reallocated resources. The United States is certainly not leaving the Middle East. And this visit in part was to go some way and try and demonstrate to our partners that we're not abandoning our allies, we're not leaving the region. I'm not sure that the president actually succeeded on that point, but he certainly expressed, commitment in terms of security, in terms of standing by allies.
ما الذي حصل عليه الرئيس بايدن في تلك الزيارة، مع ملاحظة أن صحيفة لو فيغارو الفرنسية أشارت إلى أنه غادر جدة دون الحصول على ما جاء من أجله، وهو إقناع السعودية ودول مجلس التعاون الخليجي بزيادة إنتاج النفط من أجل خفض أسعار المحروقات في العالم. يعني كيف تعلق على ما يقال وما يثار حول هذا الأمر؟
And the president did not get the type of commitments that he was looking for on increased production, as far as I can tell. There were two achievements, as I see it, from the trip. First, I think the president had this very sort of principled, as he would like to see it, stand on Saudi Arabia. He said before being elected, and then after he was elected, others here in the United States who will criticize the president for doing it. I think it was the right thing to do. I think it was the wrong policy to start off with. Human rights in Saudi Arabia that much worse than human rights in Egypt. I don't think these can be entirely the basis for how we comport our foreign policy. So that's on one hand. The other hand, that didn't get much play, but I think was a very important aspect of the trip, was a document that was signed with Israel to start a high-level working group on technology and how you handle trade in technology and exchanges and other countries purchasing your technology. And while it wasn't mentioned specifically, that this was all about China.
سمعنا خلال الفترة الماضية بمصطلح الناتو العربي الذي قيل بأن الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية تدعم إنشاؤه لمواجهة التمدد الإيراني في المنطقة. يعني أين أصبح هذا المشروع؟
I've never heard the president talk about an Arab NATO. There has been discussion of the United States facilitating, helping out logistically, has everything to do with Iran. The United States cannot shoulder the burden of security in the Middle East by itself, with Israel being, a very robust partner that is very proactive in its own defense, but with other states not doing sufficiently enough on their own part, or not having the capability. I know that sometimes we saw, with operations in Yemen, that there was an Arab coalition, had a very difficult time, I think, constraining the Iranian-backed Houthis. But more regional integration, I think, will bring to bear the capabilities of all these countries and make it more capable of countering the Iranian missile and drone threat. Although some states have denied it, I think you're seeing increasingly quiet cooperation that may redound to some benefit for these states. That includes Israel. You saw the article a few weeks back in the Wall Street Journal about CENTCOM hosting the chiefs of defense in Sharm el-Sheikh. The chiefs of defense, that is the head of the military of Saudi Arabia, of Bahrain, of UAE, of Jordan, of Egypt, and of Israel, all together, talking about the Iranian threat. This is not going to be an Arab NATO, but I think there will be increasingly cooperation where states see it in their interest, and it may be, in fact, very quiet cooperation.
يبدو واضحا إحباط العالم العربي من سلوك إدارة الرئيس بايدن اللي حسب ما يرشح عن الساسة العرب بأنها مهادنة مع إيران، يعني رغم اتهامهم إياها بتهديد أمن الدول العربية والخليجية من خلال أذرعتها العسكرية في اليمن، العراق، سوريا وبالطبع لبنان واليمن. يعني هون كيف طمأن الرئيس بايدن مخاوف القادة العرب خلال قمة جدة من السلوك الإيراني اللي وصفه بغير الجيد؟
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think there is a great deal of disappointment in President Biden in the region. I don't think he has been very strong on issues like Iran. Yes, there was a freeze, a temporary freeze, and in a lot of the forward movement of the nuclear program, but Iran moved full speed ahead with the Houthiyyin, with the Hashid, with the Fatimiyun, with Hezbollah, and they were given all this sanctions relief and poured this money into all these terrorist proxies that destabilized the region. I think the region are very concerned about that happening all over again, and having no confidence that the Biden administration will take appropriate measures, even including military action, to try and limit that.
أين أصبحت المفاوضات في فيينا بين الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية وإيران حول الملف النووي الإيراني؟ يعني يبدو أنها جامدة، أم يعني كما يقول المراقبون بأنها آلت إلى الفشل هذه المفاوضات؟
Well, we heard from President Biden that that time is limited. The United States is going back and forth on this. Certainly, Trump administration pulled out of the agreement, went to the maximum pressure campaign. The Biden administration is committed to getting back into the deal. It says it's would be so beneficial to the United States. I think you get 2 more years until Iran is free of all limitations on its development of advanced ballistic missiles, and then 2 more years after that until Iran can spin the most advanced centrifuge, within the the confines of the agreement and being legal. And so they were cheating before. And they'll continue to enrich. At what point, will there be snapback? Will there be other measures? But this administration is committed to getting back into the agreement. The Iranians said, of course, that they don't want to discuss anything other than the nuclear plan. And if you want to talk about IRGC, we'll talk about, regionally destabilizing behavior. I think the United States indicated that they'd be happy to talk about that with the Iranians. But right now, the ball is in Iran's court. And so Iran will determine whether it wants to go back into the deal. The problem is, ultimately, is that you have all these sanctions on Iran that this administration has not enforced, right? They stopped enforcing the oil sales, the sanctions on the oil sales. And so Iran now is selling 1 million barrels per day, smuggling 1 million barrels per day, and getting $100 a barrel for it. It was getting 120 from China. They are in no rush to get back into the agreement. We may have to wait until November until we see it happen.
يقول كثيرون أن الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية يجب أن تكون جادة في الضغط على طهران لضمان عدم امتلاكها أسلحة نووية ووقف أنشطتها المعادية عبر أذرعتها العسكرية في العراق، سوريا، لبنان، اليمن. يعني هذا ما يقوله الكثيرون، حتى كمان اللبنانيون يعتقدون ذلك ويقولون ذلك، ويقولون أيضا بأن إيران تسيطر على لبنان وباتت الساحة فارغة لطهران، ليس في لبنان فقط ولكن في عدد من الدول العربية في الشرق الأوسط بعد انسحاب الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية من العراق وأفغانستان. يعني هم قلقون من أن تملأ إيران الفراغ الأمريكي في المنطقة.
Again, I think the withdrawal from Afghanistan was tragic and was poorly managed. I mean, I think smart people here in the United States can disagree about whether we would have ever accomplished the set out mission in Afghanistan. It's costing us trillions of dollars. We weren't making progress, but we certainly abandoned our allies and turned the country back over to Taliban, which is obviously very problematic. And half the country's citizens are third-class citizens now, meaning the women. I think this is tragic and never should have happened. But that's not what's happened in the Middle East. The United States has not left. We still have thousands of troops in the region. We still have huge diplomatic posts. We are the largest humanitarian organization. The USAID the United States gives more money to the Middle East in humanitarian assistance than any other country. I don't see how you say, you can tell me, how are we leaving?
أنا رح خبرك وخليني خبرك عن لبنان. تحل الذكرى الثانية لجريمة انفجار مرفأ بيروت دون أي تقدم في التحقيق ولا يوجد متهمون، والسلطة اللبنانية تقيد عمل القاضي طارق بيطار، بل هي جمدت هذا العمل، ما عم يخلوه يشتغل. التحقيق متوقف بشكل كلي صار له شهور، والأدهى أنه المجتمع الدولي بما فيه الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية غير متعاونة، لا تساعد المحقق العدلي طارق البيطار للوصول إلى ما عم نقول الحقيقة كيف انفجر المرفأ، لا تساعده للكشف عن ملابسات الانفجار في الوقت الذي مارست فيه الإدارات الأمريكية المتعاقبة كل الضغط الممكن لمعاقبة منفذي الاعتداء على طائرة لوكربي، لا بل ضغطت أيضا على إدارة الرئيس الليبي الأسبق معمر القذافي كي يدفع تعويضات ضخمة لذوي الضحايا. لماذا لا نرى نفس الدعم لأهالي ضحايا مرفأ بيروت؟
This is horrific what happened with the port explosion. And people should be held to account. I know that when I was in government, I looked to designate people in Lebanon. I think this administration designated a couple of people for corruption. I think a lot more can be done. It took 17 years to get any type of justice, and we still didn't get any justice for Hariri. So the wheels of justice do not grind in Lebanon. And I do think the U.S. government should be putting enormous amounts of pressure. The Lebanese issue, there's an internal Lebanese issue. We can put pressure from the outside, but you remember, you still have a government that the IMF says this is the largest man-made economic collapse, like in almost in history, that your politicians have done this. And the people of Lebanon went to the ballot box and elected all the same people, with the exception of like 15 people. I used to say when I was in the government, I can't help Lebanon if Lebanon doesn't want to help itself. I mean, what is the responsibility of the Lebanese? You got 15 new people. The Shia elected only Amal with Hezbollah, right? There's not one seat that didn't go to these guys. And certainly they played a role one way or the other in the port blast. All the other people, that were in government, they got reelected, with the exception of 5 pro-Syrians. This is, so what is your responsibility? I think the United States can't, we can play a role, we can assist, and it's helpful, I think, if we have the people of Lebanon with us. Is there any responsibility on the people of Lebanon?
هناك فرق كبير بين جريمة اغتيال رئيس الحكومة الأسبق رفيق الحريري وانفجار مرفأ بيروت. يعني نحن نتحدث هنا عن قتل أكثر من 200 لبناني وجرح أكثر من 6000 لبناني وفقدان أكثر من 50 لبناني. نحن هنا نتحدث عن تدمير ثلث عاصمة لبنان يعني بشكل كامل، وحتى الآن لم يستطع لبنان النهوض من تداعيات كارثة انفجار المرفأ. لا بل لبنان متروك تماما كي يواجه مصيره وحيدا دون مساعدة في ظل سيطرة السلطة الفاسدة والميليشيات على الدولة اللبنانية بشكل كلي.
I don't know. Listen, you've had this problem of the militia and Iran for a very long time, right? And the United States stood by Lebanon, when the people of Lebanon stood up and demanded that the Syrians be thrown out of Lebanon and end their occupation. We stood by you. We stood by March 14th. And then everybody made electoral deals with Hezbollah, right? Nobody opposed these people. The people that we stood by cut deals. We're not going to war and cleansing Lebanon of Hezbollah. What do you want from us? I think the United States can provide humanitarian support. We can punish people for corruption. And I think we should be punishing people that are obstructing judicial proceedings and moving ahead on this. I think we should be designating people for both corruption and for aiding and abetting Hezbollah, et cetera. But at the end of the day, we can't get rid of your political class that is impeding this. What do you want the United States to do? We're not giving you more money. Right, we're already feeding you. We're underwriting the World Bank social safety net program, but we can't step in there and take over your central bank. We can't make an agreement for you with the IMF. 85% of Lebanese are in poverty. Once again, the IMF said this is a product of the political elite in Lebanon. This isn't that the United States designated a few bank accounts. It has nothing to do with that. This is all stolen money. Corruption, a Ponzi scheme, you know all about it.
أشعر أنك غاضب من الشعب اللبناني، وأعتقد هو نفس الانطباع الذي لمسته عند الكثير من السياسيين العرب الذين أبدوا استيائهم من نتائج الانتخابات اللبنانية التي آسف بأنها أعادت نفس الطبقة السياسية المتهمة بالفساد إلى السلطة.
Saudi Arabia gave you billions of dollars to Lebanon. Right? And they didn't see any results. They basically said, why are we investing in this country? They don't have a desire to participate like they did before.
أحد الحلول المطروحة في لبنان الآن ولا أعرف هنا موقف الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية من هذا الأمر أو من هذا الطرح، عمل عقد اجتماعي سياسي قانوني دستوري جديد بديل عن اتفاق الطائف، أو بالحد الأدنى تطوير اتفاق الطائف بما يتناسب مع التغيرات الديمغرافية والسياسية على الأرض هنا في لبنان، وذلك من أجل إعادة توزيع السلطة بشكل عادل. هل قد تدعم الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية هذا الأمر، خصوصاً أن بعض الأوساط تؤكد، أو لا أقول تؤكد لا بل تتخوف، أن حزب الله سيكون المستفيد من أي اتفاق جديد أو حتى تعديل اتفاق الطائف، كونه الأقوى سياسياً وعسكرياً ويحظى بدعم شعبي في بيئته الحاضرة.
I've seen all sorts of plans for Lebanon. This one, the one that you're talking about, would change the allocation of parliamentary seats, for example. between Christian and Muslim. I've seen other recommendations for federalism, that people don't want to live under Hezbollah's law or intimidation anymore, and so they want their own federal area. I mean, there are as many solutions for Lebanon as there are Lebanese. You want to do this when you're in crisis? There's never a good time, frankly, right? But I'm not sure there is a solution that is either rewriting Taif or cutting up your country into cantons and letting people rule themselves. I don't know what the solution is.
نحن الآن في لبنان لا يوجد لدينا حكومة. رئيس الحكومة المكلف نجيب ميقاتي يبدو أنه غير مستعجل لتشكيل حكومته لقرب انتهاء ولاية رئيس الجمهورية ميشيل عون، وذلك في شهر أكتوبر القادم. هل سنحظى سريعا في لبنان برئيس للجمهورية أم ستتم عرقلة هذا الأمر وندخل في فراغ طويل؟ وبرأيك أو من خلال قراءتك السياسية وإلمامك بالشأن اللبناني، من هو الاسم الأكثر حظاً للوصول إلى القصر الجمهوري؟
I'm not going to weigh in on who's who. الخارجية has got the inner track. Just like you guys, Lebanon got back Nabi Berri for what term is this for him? He's the Speaker of Parliament for life. How many? Right? I mean, you got your new parliament, all the new members and the Saura in there, and then you reelected Berri. So I think the same coalition will pull together and elect whoever they want. If you get Berri, you'll get anybody. The people who wanted Berri will get who they want for president. Whether it's however many percent of whether the total members of parliament, there's enough people that elected Berri, there'll be enough people that elect who Hezbollah wants to be. Who Hezbollah probably wants to be president.
أفهم من كلامك أن رئيس جمهورية لبنان القادم سوف يكون مرشح حزب الله.
Just like your current president.
أرسل حزب الله مسيرات فوق حق الكريش، وقال بوقتها الأمين العام لحزب الله السيد حسن نصر الله أن لبنان لن يصبر كثيرا لبدء التنقيب عن النفط والغاز، وحدد سماحة السيد شهر سبتمبر بأنه سيكون نهاية هذا الصبر. أهو إنذار بالحرب من حزب الله في ظل استمرار منع لبنان من التنقيب عن نفطه غازه؟ ما في ولا شركة بتقبل تجي على لبنان حتى تشتغل لنعرف إذا في نفط وغاز أو لا. في فيتو أمريكي واضح لمنع هذا التنقيب إلى أن يتم إنهاء الاتفاق بين لبنان وإسرائيل حول ترسيم الحدود البحرية.
Hezbollah is the sovereign in Lebanon, so it will make decisions of war and peace for Lebanon. As we've seen this before, and they can do it again if they want it. You have negotiations that are ongoing, but of course Nasrallah said, well, we could die martyrs rather than die on the bread lines and the gasoline lines. This is his decision. It's not the government of Lebanon's decision.
كيف ترى مستقبل الاتفاق بين لبنان وإسرائيل حول ترسيم الحدود البحرية للوصول إلى اتفاق عادل بين الطرفين حول النفط والغاز؟
I don't know how that's gonna end up, but you're seeing every day more ridiculousness, the unseriousness and lack of urgency on Lebanon's part to find a deal here. Maybe calmer, smarter minds will prevail here in the end, and you will get some sort of compromise agreement. But certainly the threats of war aren't going to get us there. I don't think Israel's afraid of Hassan Nasrallah's threats to bring Lebanon to war. Lebanon right now, I don't think, given the economic condition of Lebanon, another war that certainly will be very damaging to Israel, but last time cost $6 billion worth of damage to Lebanon. I don't think that this is really in Lebanon's interest. I know it's not in Israel's interest, but I think I wouldn't hold out much hope for an agreement. But you call me a pessimist. But hopefully. That people will find room for compromise and get to an agreement here.
شكرا جزيلا مساعد وزير الخارجية الامريكي الاسبق ديفيد شنكر على وجودك معنا في بتوقيت بيروت. والاسبوع القادم حلقة خاصة حول الذكرى الثانية لجريمة انفجار مرفأ بيروت. يعني الرحمة للقتلى والصبر للبنان واللبنانيين.